Hello, this video will show you how to set out your letter for a company or for personal use. It may be a cover letter for a job application, or it may be just for company needs. To start off with, you need to check the layout of your page. So go up to the ribbon and go to Layout. First thing to check is the size of your page. Where I am, the standard size is A4. Some places use letter size, but we're going to select A4. The next thing to check is your margins. Now, if it's going to be a standard letter, keep it to normal, and that is set here at 2.54 centimetres all the way around. The other option that I would use at times is narrow, which is 1.27 centimetres. You can also go to custom margins and change those as needed. It's also got paper sizes here, which you can look at and see the size. You can also change the layout if needed, but that's where the margins are. So remember, the margins are the area around the page that you keep blank. It's like a border that's invisible around your page. Now, if you need to print your letter, you need to allow for a company letterhead, etc. You might need to have a larger margin at the top or at the bottom. You may need to insert an image such as a company logo or a footer. You allow for all of that in your margin. But for now, we're just going to carry on with it as is on a plain piece of paper, like you would for a personal letter. Now, the first thing you type in any letter are your details. And the way to remember this is to think of it as the letterhead. If it's a letterhead, it's at the top of the page, and you're the person from that company on using your letterhead. So you think to yourself, this letter is coming from me, so my details go first. So if it's a personal letter, it's your first and last name. If you're doing it on behalf of your company, it's your company name first. You then may put your name in the second line if that's necessary, but your name will be at the bottom of the letter anyway. You then put your street address line there, and then a second address line, which is your state, city, suburb, postal code, etc. And then put your email underneath if you're sending this electronically or want to include that as a method of contact. You then put at least one enter or return. Sometimes it's two, but we'll just use one for now. So one space. You then put the date of the letter. I will always recommend that you type this in yourself and not do auto date or anything like that, because then the date changes every time you open the letter. So you want to record the date of the letter, and you always write that in full. So if it's the 1st of February, here we write it like that. So 1 February 2023. You then put another space or an enter or return. You then put the details of the people or the person you're sending it to. So if it's a company, you put the company name first. And then if you have a contact at the company that you're directing the letter to, put their name in the second line, their first and second name. If you don't have both first and second name, just leave it as the company name. You then put the address line once, so the street address or the PO box number. So if it's PO box 82, you would put that in there. And the second line again, you put in the city, state, suburb, postcode, the second line. And again, if you have their email, or if you're sending it electronically, put the email address. If you don't have the postal address, but you're sending it by email, just put the full email address. Now, the layout of the address part here can be done in two different ways. In my example here, I'm aligned to the left of the page, so straight along this side. You will see some people will have this section aligned to the right of the page over here. So it's aligned along this side. And then they start the letter on the left side with the over here. So it can be done either way. Some will have the receiver details here on the left. I prefer to have it all aligned to the left. It's personal preference, or if you work for a company, I would suggest looking at some of their letters to see what's preferred where you work and follow that example. You then address your letter as such. So if you have the name of the person, you can put Dear Sir. If you don't have the name of the person, you put Dear Sir, Madam, or you may put To Whom It May Concern. You may, if you have the person's name, you can put their name, so Dear Mr. Smith. Or if this is somebody that you know personally and it's appropriate, you can put their first name in there. So you could put Dear Bob. But here we'll put Dear Mr. Smith. Now, insert another space in, so I pressed enter there twice. On some letters, you may want to put a subject, or if it's regarding something that's been discussed previously. If you're going to do that, you can do that in this line here. So for example, it might be regarding a job application. So we'll put here the name of the job, and if there was a job number. You would then center that. So go up to the Home tab here, and here you've got the option to center. You would center that, and go back down a line and go back to left a line and put in another return. Now that may or may not be needed, this line, so that is optional. But if there is a subject that you want to make sure it's highlighted right at the top, or if you have a reference number that you'll want to keep in track of in the correspondence, pop it in here. Now I'm going to insert some text here to show you how that can be laid out. So I have the text here in the center of the letter. Now, you're going to notice that on this particular one, it's aligned to the left and it's straight on the right as well. That's called justified. I'll just show you. So that's this option here, justified, which makes the text look nice and neat and even on both sides. The only other option would be keeping it left aligned. You wouldn't center it or have it right aligned. So for a letter, having it left aligned is considered quite normal. Justified looks nice and neat, but it does stretch the words out a little bit. So for this example, what we'll do, we'll keep it left. When you set out your letter, make sure it's set out in paragraphs such as this. So the first paragraph will be referring to previous correspondence or giving a brief outline of what the letter's about. You'll have a second paragraph which will go into more detail. Then a final paragraph, depending on the length of the letter, but your final paragraph should summarize, give your details, when you hope to hear back from them or when you hope to provide more information, etc. You then end the letter with a sign-off. Yours sincerely is common and well accepted and polite. You then type your name. And sometimes it is appropriate to put your email address, your contact phone number, etc. You can also put your contact phone number up here so that people can easily find your details. So we'll just put that up there as well. Okay, now if you are going to print this letter, you would leave enough space in here for you to do a quick signature. If you have a electronics interest in it by email or online. You can remove that space. You could insert your digital signature, so maybe a scanned copy of your signature, insert it as a picture. If you don't have that, leave a small one line space there and leave it as that, ready to send. Then the next thing you need to do is just read through it, make sure everything's correct, make sure everything is lined up. One thing to do is a good idea to check your spacings. This paragraph symbol over here will show hide all of the editing you've done here with return. So this little backwards P here is a enter or a return. The dots are spaces, etc. So you would see if you had too many enters or returns, you could remove them and fix that up and just make sure it's nice and neat. It's a good idea to either use print preview or to zoom out on your letter to check its layout, make sure it looks neat. And then you're ready to go. If you are sending it electronically, it's a good idea to save it as a PDF and send a PDF version rather than a Word version, unless you're specifically asked to send it as a Word version. But if you're printing it, print it out, make sure it prints on one page and send it as it is. So there's your tutorial, fairly simple, just to help you with a basic layout of a letter. I hope you found this helpful. Thank you.